Need cheap coins right now? Check out redzonecoins.com. For the very best discount available, use code DIRECTOR for 20% off.
Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. You guys notice something a little bit different? No, it's not a new haircut. We got a brand new microphone in this house, man, and I wasn't going to reveal this until tomorrow. I've got something planned, but we'll explain more about this microphone tomorrow. I'm super excited to share with you guys the story, but in today's video, because honestly, I wasn't really planning on making a video on this topic, but I've been getting hit up by a lot of Chargers fans asking me, Director, should the Chargers be considering trading for John Ross III? Now, John Ross, of course, has formally requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I can see the intrigue here. I can see why a lot of Chargers fans are asking themselves, like, internally, like, is this the move for the Bolts? Is this something the Chargers need? Because obviously, wide receiver was a huge concern coming into this year, and now that we're here, now that we've kind of seen the pieces that we have, would a move like trading for John Ross be worth it? I don't know, man. Week 8 is coming up soon. We got a lot of trade rumors coming down the mill. I do have a video planned for next week on the likely trades that could happen at the last second. But for now, John Ross is kind of in our crosshairs. I kind of want to feel, out the Chargers fandom. Is this something that we want to do? So before we do get started, though, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this video. Lights, camera,
Action!
Speedster John Ross is now on the market. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be saying, no. Understandably, you probably don't want John Ross because he hasn't really produced a lot for Cincinnati in these last few years that he was drafted, or since he was drafted in the first round. But let's kind of take a look at this decision. Why would the Chargers even be considering this? Why am I even making a video on this topic? Well, there's a couple of reasons why, okay? And I think that they're very valid. The first one being, let's talk about John Ross, the player. Actually, let's talk about, I think this is a great first start. Let's talk about Anthony Lynn, a statement that he made earlier in the year saying that the Chargers need to be emphasizing more speed. We need more speed on this team if we're going to be competing with guys like Patrick Mahomes. Now, Derek Carr a little bit, the Broncos a little bit. Speed is definitely becoming a huge part and playing in factor for offenses in the NFL right now. You really need that extra next level guy in order to excel, and Anthony Lynn has emphasized that in the past. Now, the Chargers are changing. A player like John Ross, let's say a couple years ago under a guy like Phillip Rivers, maybe even Tyrod Taylor at the early part of this year, I wouldn't really be looking at John Ross's direction saying, we can't fully utilize what he brings to a team. He's a speedster. He's a downfield threat. He's the kind of guy that stretches defenses. And unless you have a quarterback with the kind of arm that can actually hit him on those passes, there's really no reason for coverage to back off because obviously the ball might be underthrown. It's not going to reach that target. So in building around Phillip Rivers, it's an easy no for me on John Ross. But when building around a guy like Justin Herbert, now that's a different story. But the Chargers already have a couple of up-and-coming speedsters on their team in Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson, so why throw in another speedster? Well, before we answer that question, let's see what John Ross, the actual player, does offer. He offers the fastest 40 time in the history of the NFL Combine at 4.22. Now, Madden players out there like myself salivate over that. That's something that in a video game you would certainly go after, but there's so many more intangibles, outside of speed that matters, that in the real NFL, in real life football, it's not like the holy grail of wide receivers unless they can actually make a difference on the field. What has he done production-wise in the last couple of years? Well, he logged 506 yards on 28 catches last year with 3 touchdowns. Okay, that's all right. 210 yards the year before with 7 touchdowns in 2018. So my question is, what's the problem then? Why isn't this first round wide receiver producing at a higher level? If he was drafted so high, he's got the speed, he's got, a lot of the tools to make something happen. Why isn't anything happen? Why isn't he exploding? Well, I think it's because the Bengals can't really fully utilize him. You have to think about who's been throwing him the ball. Andy Dalton and now Joe Burrow, okay? Neither of which of these guys are known for a particularly big arm. And this has kind of limited John Ross's production, in my personal opinion. Okay, so if John Ross is looking for success, he wants out of Cincinnati, where should he go to find success? Not that he has much of a say in it, but where would he land where he would actually make a difference for that team? And that depends, at least in my opinion, on the quarterback of that team. I have some quarterbacks listed from teams that I think he would be successful in. Matt Stafford of the Lions, Josh Allen of the Bills, Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, Aaron Rodgers of the Packers, Russell Wilson of the Seahawks, and of course, Justin Herbert of the Chargers. These are all systems that I think he can find a lot of success in, okay? And by now, I'm pretty sure you know the trait that all of these quarterbacks share, and that's that they throw one hell of a deep ball. Okay, and putting him in a situation like that definitely will increase his chances of productivity on the field, not just, in catching and yards and all that stuff, but in making a difference as far as pulling away defenders, making them respect the deep ball. That matters a lot, guys, and it's really hard to respect a guy with his kind of speed when he doesn't have a quarterback that can actually hit him, at that area of the field where you're going to want to see defenders. You want defenders to back off to open up the game underneath, and if a quarterback can't hit that area of the field, there's no reason for that coverage to back off in that way, if that makes sense, okay? So could he land with these teams? Possibly. There's a good possibility that he does land with one of these quarterbacks, but it's really out of his control since he is requesting a trade. He's going to go to a team that wants to pay the most for him, okay? But in my opinion, the teams that should be targeting him, the teams that could be utilizing him the most, are the teams with those quarterbacks. Not just those teams. There's obviously other teams that could utilize him, underneath, maybe a little bit better wide receiver needy teams like, the Eagles, maybe the New England Patriots. Those guys could definitely be in contention for him as well. But the teams I certainly think should be targeting him are the Lions, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Packers, and so on. Okay. Now, how much would he cost one of these teams if they decided to go after him? Now, this is the great part about this whole thing. The Bengals are probably going to lose on this no matter what. And it's because of what John Ross has done. John Ross has formally requested a trade, and he's put it out there in the world. And what does that do for draft, capital? What does it do to his value? It lowers tremendously. He's not going to be worth as much because everyone knows he wants out. And in some cases, like DeAndre Hopkins, their price goes way, way, way down. And if it can happen to a guy like D-Hop, it can definitely happen to a guy like John Ross. Okay? So all that being said, I'm thinking John Ross is probably worth at most a 6th round pick. And obviously, that's not a really bad idea if you're really looking for help at wide receiver at this point. The odds of drafting a guy in the 6th round with the talent that John Ross has is very, very low. Now, the only swing side of that is I think he's in a contract year right now, which means that in the future, you're going to have to pay him. He still will likely be cheap unless he absolutely explodes with his new team. But that is something to take in consideration, that if you do trade for him, if you do trade away a 6th or 7th round pick, you're only going to get about half a season of football with him, at least as far as I understand, unless you decide to pay him and bring him back. Now, what I like out of that, though, even with only 6 weeks, is options for a team like the Chargers. We have Mike Williams on a contract year, maybe looking at a guy like John Ross as well. Having them both on the same team kind of gives you an option. Which one of these guys, fits the offense best? Do both of them, work in tandem very well? I think that's a huge possibility as well. Having a guy with the physical, traits to go up for those 50-50 balls, and then going after a guy that has the speed to pull back a defense. I think having both those guys on a team is not a bad idea, especially with the guy that is so good underneath and just getting open, and Keenan Allen. All that in tandem may, create, a very unique situation at wide receiver for the Chargers. Okay, so the last couple of things I do want to say. What is my stance on all of this? Should the Chargers be trading for John Ross? My personal opinion right now is yes. I think the Chargers should definitely be in contention for picking up John Ross, and it's because of a lot of things that I just mentioned. He's going to be very cheap. If you want to re-sign him, he's not going to cost a lot. He may fit this system a lot better than you think, and adding speed at this point is actually pretty important to guys like Anthony Lynn, myself, and a lot of other Chargers fans. So I think we'd actually be one of the best teams for him as a player to land on right now. We would actually utilize him. We've seen the kind of damage that Justin Herbert can do with guys like Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson. I think Ross would be even better. Okay, teams would be forced to respect Herbert's big arm even more, and we've seen what Herbert can do when given an opportunity deep. With a guy like John Ross, everyone's going to have to back off. Okay. And Herbert will actually utilize him too. We've seen him target guys like Guyton and Johnson. There's no reason if he sees the fastest player in the NFL, John Ross, open deep, that he wouldn't toss it up to him. If he trusts these other guys, he's going to trust John Ross. And as long as John Ross doesn't, drop the ball, which he's kind of been known for lately, especially, when targeted in traffic, he should be open. He should account for a lot more touchdowns. Jalen Guyton's already got 2 touchdowns on the years, folks. It's crazy. Maybe more? I think it's just 2. Okay, we'll actually target him. That's probably my biggest point there. Unlike the quarterbacks in Cincinnati, who probably can't hit him that deep or even that frequently, having Justin Herbert paired with John Ross is kind of a special, chemistry on a football team. Being able to have a guy that can actually utilize speed like that. Okay, so as long as John Ross can clean up the catches, which I think he completely can, he could be a huge weapon for the Bolts. Okay, we need a weapon like John Ross to attack teams like Kansas City. Okay, and if we don't get him, my biggest worry is that he'll probably go to Kansas City. Just like I was kind of worried with Le'Veon Bell. I was like, we don't really need Le'Veon Bell. Austin Eckler's on his way back. We got some really good backups. And then Bell lands with Kansas City on a super cheap contract, like $2 million or something like that. Something ridiculously cheap. Okay, kind of looking at the same thing here. It's not going to cost a lot. It's really not. And if the Chargers can add a benefit and add that speed to this offense, without costing an arm and a leg, we're talking a 6th or 7th round pick, folks. I say we do it. Don't let him go to Kansas City because he's going to fit really well in there. He'll fit really well with us as well. He'll probably fit just as well with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't want to see them get another speed weapon like that. Okay? So that's all I got for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section if you think we should be picking up John Ross in a very cheap trade. Obviously, if the price is too high, it's an easy pass. But if it's a 6th or 7th round pick, I'm all about that. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.